What is going on, y'all? Robert Sykes, KetoSavage.com, and I'm coming back at you with a reverse diet vlog update. This is all about week 4. So we are 4 weeks, 1 month post-show, and I'm feeling pretty good about how my body is responding thus far. Again, we are in phase 6 of the protocol if you're going off of my ketogenic competition prep and reverse protocol. Phase 6 being summarized as gradually increasing the daily macro intake while simultaneously decreasing the refeed intake that we leveraged in phase 4 and 5, and kind of allowing your body to increase body fat and weight, but at a sustainable, healthy rate of between about a half a pound and 1.5 to 2 pounds a week, depending on how aggressive you want to take things. Now, quick little caveat here. I am following my protocol, but I'm also experimenting as I go because I want to be on the cutting edge and just trial new things and bring that to y'all's attention as I learn them. And I know my body incredibly well at how it responds to various manipulations, and I've gone through this protocol multiple times. So the protocol as it is written is bulletproof. I'm teasing out different things, pushing the limits, and testing things to see what's possible so that y'all can then have that information relayed to you. So that said, I'm being 100% transparent in what all I'm doing here with these manipulations, with the macros, how my mindset's being affected, but I'm also being a little bit more aggressive in some ways than I would recommend y'all be until I've kind of tried and tested it. So let that be known as a preliminary point here. But let's start out with some stats. So I got some blood work done on Monday, actually, 12/11, and let's just dive into the blood work because that's something that I want to dive into. So I did not get a lipid panel. This was all done through private MD labs. I've been doing a few tests through them. Shout out to them. They hooked me up. They hooked me up with I got the comprehensive panel the first time. This last one was not the comprehensive panel, but it does provide some valuable insight. So let's dive into that. I did not get the lipids done, so I don't know what my most up-to-date trigs and cholesterol numbers are. But if we scroll down to, we got the blood count here. I still have several markers that are in the red because I am so depleted, but these are starting to trend in the right direction, which is a good thing. I want to go down to the hormone panel because that is the most relevant. And again, I did not get a fully comprehensive panel. With this one, I just got total testosterone. But if y'all can recall, the last time I got a hormone test done, my total testosterone was a whopping 86. That is abysmally low. That's lower than I've ever recalled it being. I felt great, felt depleted obviously, but I was really impressed with how I was functioning at such a low total testosterone count. Here I am 4 weeks post-show, increasing my intake slightly, having some of that stress removed, and my testosterone, total testosterone, jumped to 165. So from 86 to 165, that's quite a big improvement there. That trend should continue as I go throughout the reverse diet. So I'm happy to see those numbers trending in the right direction. Again, hopefully the blood work and the transparency there just illustrates why being at a extreme deficit and low body fat are not sustainable or optimal from a health standpoint long term. But I am still incredibly lean and depleted right now, which is why that number is still quite low for someone in my age demographic. So there is that on the blood work. And I'm going to get more blood work done probably in another month or two, and we'll see kind of what that looks like. And I'll probably try and get a more comprehensive panel done next time I get blood work done as well. Now, with regards to body fat percentage and measurements, I got a caliper test done yesterday by my lovely wife, Crystal. That came in at 3.89%, so still very lean from a caliper standpoint. My Inbody is holding steady at 3%, and then I got the DEXA scan. The last DEXA scan I got was on November 30th, and that came in at 4.1%, so still quite lean. I also got measurements last night. The measurements were neck 14.25, shoulders 45 3/4, chest 39 1/4, Biceps unflexed, 13.5. Flexed, 15. Belly button, 32. Hips, 36.25. Thighs, 22.25. And calves, 14.75. So everything is shifting slightly, but at a reasonable rate. You don't want to see anything jump up too drastically. You don't want to see your weight jump up too drastically in the reverse diet. So there is that. Now, let's dive into the spreadsheet and the macros and kind of what I was talking about earlier about being a little bit more aggressive. All right, so here we are on the spreadsheet. I updated this a little bit, added a few more columns, specifically which is this reverse weight goal column. So what I did here was I took my show day weight from the last show, which was 152.3, and then I basically moved down a week. I'm not sure what it says, 152.4, but oh well, it's close enough. So basically just started adding, what I'm going to try and target for myself personally is about a 1 pound increase per week. You could be more or less aggressive than that, but 1 pound per week is a good reasonable weight gain in the reverse diet. So what I've got here is a simple trend line that shows an added pound each week. That being said, my weight goal would have been 153.4 pounds at the end of week 1. I was coming at 153.2. Going into week 2, 154 was my actual average. 154.4 was my goal average. Week 3, the weight average was 154.7. The goal would have been 155.4. And then concluding week 4, the week we're just now going over, my goal weight would have been 156.4, and I came in at 156.6. Now, pretty much on target there, a little bit over, but let's drill into some of these days a little bit more specifically. So on Monday, I weighed 155.2. On Tuesday, I ate an additional dozen eggs, some meat sticks, and had about another 2,500 milligrams of sodium. So that skewed me a little bit there, which is why I weighed a little bit heavier the following day. That weight dropped down on Thursday. And let's see here. On Thursday, we had a Christmas party with the crew. I prepped the meal. We had a deep-fried turkey that was fried in 100% grass-finished Wagyu beef tallow. It was delicious. Highly recommended if you haven't tried that. But that sodium was also a little bit harder to manage. So my weight jumped up the following day to 157.8. And then on Saturday, I decided to introduce an additional refeed. So that's 3 refeeds in the week. And on that one, I had the remaining leftover turkey and some carnivore snacks, a carnivore bar, and some leftover deviled eggs. So the sodium was a little bit higher there as well. My weight jumped up on Sunday to 159.2, so quite a significant increase, which is why that average is higher. However, I'm recording this on Monday, going into week 5, and my weight dropped 4 pounds overnight. I woke up at 155.3. So most of that was obviously fluid retention. So I'm technically below what my target weight is going off of this most recent weigh-in of 155.3, and my water has stabilized. So I could afford to be a little bit more aggressive with these intakes. Now, I talked about this a little bit on the last one. I've struggled a little bit with being incredibly rigid. Like throughout the entire prep, all 33 weeks of prep, I had a plan on the macros. I was objective on how my body was responding, but it was pretty structured to the point where I didn't deviate at all. And with the reverse, there is certainly a structured plan. You want to be simultaneously increasing your daily intake while simultaneously dropping your refeed intake. And if you look at these refeed days, which are highlighted in orange, you can see that some weeks are a little bit higher than the week prior. Some weeks are a little bit lower. If you kind of look at the overall average, like this number here, let me look at this past week, 28.79. So what that number represents is if I was to take all those calorie days throughout the week and then average them out across the week, that's what my average intake for the day was, counting those refeeds. My daily intake last week, not counting refeed days, was only 2,095 calories. So 155 grams of protein, 155 grams of fat, rather, 160 grams of protein, 15 grams total carbs, 2,095 calories. Then I had these refeed days, which were 3,500 calories, 4,000 calories, 4,200 calories. Some of these refeed days are, in fact, higher than they were in weeks prior. So I'm kind of breaking my own rules there. But I'm trying to find the blend between being incredibly rigid and structured with my reverse diet plan, but then also being incredibly objective in how my body's responding. And I don't want to lead y'all astray. I don't want to feel guilty or anything like that. So I'm really trying to just be objective on how my body's responding and targeting that average weight increase of 1 pound per week as the main factor, depending on how aggressive or conservative I want to take the quantity of refeeds, the frequency of the refeeds, and just how aggressive I want to be with the refeeds. I'm also trying to let go of a little bit of this incredibly rigid structure that I had throughout the prep itself and be at peace with not having everything dialed in to the T 100% of the time, because you have to allow your psychological state to return to some degree of normalcy as well as your physiological state post-competition. And that's hard for me because I'm a control freak and I like to know everything to the T. But if I'm being objective in the data and simply looking at my weight, looking at the pictures, looking how things are responding, and I can confidently say that everything is moving in the right direction at a reasonable, sustainable rate, I don't need to beat myself up about having a little bit more leftover turkey. Now, I am tracking what I am having beyond what the planned intake was so that I have all this data. What I'm trying to avoid and what I encourage y'all to avoid is getting to this state of feeding frenzy where you don't track your intake, you go all holds barred, and you just eat ad nauseum. I am trying to have a structured plan for these refeeds, but then be very present when I'm consuming the meal. If I know that I'm still hungry and my body would benefit from it, like this week I had 7 days straight of consecutive resistance training, plus 2 days of cardio, and then going back into another 7 days, or 5 days rather, of training. I didn't put my cardio in here, but I have done cardio 2 times a week still. I did 2 sessions of cardio this past week, Saturday and Sunday, at level 15 for 25 minutes. So I haven't reduced my cardio much up to this point. So the caloric expenditure is still pretty much on par with what it was, if not even more so, throughout the prep, because I'm now doing a lot more stuff around the house, homesteading stuff, building a fence, splitting firewood, etc. So taking all these things into consideration, I'm trying to be objective with the data, adjust my refeeds somewhat intuitively based off of how my body is responding and how I'm feeling, but while still following the plan and protocol. So that's kind of what we have going on there. Now, when it comes to allowing yourself a little bit more freedom and being a little bit more intuitive, there's a couple things that I'm incorporating that I would encourage y'all to do as well. When I go above my planned intake on these refeed days, I only allow myself to have that come from meat and egg sources. I'm not having an additional keto brick yet. I'm not having any types of keto treats like keto cookies or keto sweets or a bunch of processed food. The extent of my processed food in these additional consumption days would be something like the carnivore snacks, which is just grass-finished meat and salt. So continually sticking with real protein sources and eggs, because that's going to allow me to be more intuitive, but then listen to my body and actually get true biofeedback signals as opposed to a sweet rush of cravings, which I'm trying to avoid because that triggers overconsumption from an unnecessary state. I want to be very objective with the data. I'm also not having these refeed days on consecutive days. I'm having one day that is with the planned intake in between, at least. That allows my fluid levels to stabilize with the electrolytes, because I'm still tracking the electrolytes, allows my water intake to stay consistent, and it allows me to have like a little bit of a mental disconnect from that higher intake day to see how my body stabilizes the following day on the planned macros. Now, that said, we do have the Christmas holidays coming up, so I may do a consecutive refeed on Christmas Eve and Christmas. Haven't decided yet, but that will all be coming from real food sources as well. So if you are going to do this, be honest with yourself. If you are one that can stick to a structured plan and any deviation from that plan allows you to totally spiral out of control and fall into negative eating tendencies, then don't deviate from the structured plan. If your body is responding well, your weight is increasing at a healthy rate, and you can be honest and objective with yourself, then allow yourself that freedom. The reverse is not supposed to be as rigid as the prep itself. So keep all that in mind as you're going through this. So that's kind of what we have going on here. I probably won't do more than 3 refeed days in a week because I like the majority of the days coming from the planned days, but I will likely be a little bit more aggressive at the rate in which I increase the following weeks. For instance, this next week, week 5, I'm probably going to bump it up 15 grams of fat and be at 170 grams of fat instead of 160 or 165. So really just being objective, looking at the data, seeing what your weight's doing, seeing how your body's responding, body composition, pictures, etc. That's why I still recommend taking pictures in the reverse diet. Speaking of pictures, let's dive into the pictures from this week. All right, so these pictures were taken on 12/11, so Monday. And as you can see, I'm still holding on to the definition. I still have the vascularity in my arms and shoulders and legs. I'm actually filled out, but not to an obsessive point. I still have the separation in my quadriceps here. Like if I'm seeing that still, I can afford to be a little bit more aggressive. After I had that leftover turkey, I woke up, looked in the mirror the next day, and I still had veins and vascularity in my glutes. Okay, so 1 month post-show, still have striated glutes. I'm trying to be pretty conservative at the rate that I'm increasing, but I can afford to be a little bit more aggressive than I am currently. So that is the beauty of capturing this information, taking these photos, tracking your weight, tracking your intake, and having that data to look at. If you don't have any way of being objective, then you don't know if you're overdoing it or not. Like, you need to measure this stuff. What can be measured can be managed. So I try to take a very measured approach with these reverse diet weeks. So there is that. We have all the photos here. See, we saw vascularity in the back. The hamstrings are all still dialed in. So I feel pretty good about how my body is looking, the rate at which it is progressing, and how everything's playing out. So again, there is that on week 4. Kind of a bit of a psychological past couple weeks with regard to allowing myself a little bit more intuition with the feeding, having a little bit more of an intake beyond what I had proactively planned, but doing so with a plan in place to mitigate an eating disorder. Because like I said in the past, that plagues more competitors than not. So just be honest with yourself, be objective with that data, and act accordingly. Otherwise, you can spiral down a very dark alley, and I don't want that for anybody. So that pretty much concludes everything that I want to talk about with regards to the week 4 update of the reverse diet. We will be seeing y'all for week 5 next week. Again, week 5 will take place during some Christmas festivities, so I'll kind of see how all that goes. I did just put in a CGM. So with next week's video, I'll have the CGM data, and I will have a better illustration of what having these higher bolus refeed days look like, the more frequent refeed days. If I do the consecutive refeed day on Christmas Eve and Christmas, I probably will allow myself some sweet foods, but it'll be very clean sweet food. So again, we'll have the glucose data from that, and we'll be objective with that data. So thank y'all for tuning in. Hopefully you're getting something out of these reverse diet videos and the transparency it provides. And we will see y'all next week for week 5. Merry Christmas to you.